A lavish retirement dinner was underway inside one of Lagos's finest hotel ballrooms. Crystal chandeliers glittered above, soft melodies drifted through the air, and waiters slipped quietly between tables, balancing trays of wine and champagne. Every chair was filled. Relatives, friends, business associates, and the city's elite had all gathered to honor Mr. Johnson's retirement after 35 years of leading his company. At the second table, Amelia Johnson sat quietly with her hand entwined in her husband Daniel's. She had spent weeks persuading her father to let her attend, hoping this night might serve as a step toward reconciliation. She had chosen her outfit with care, a simple yet graceful emerald dress, wanting to look like the daughter her father once admired. She glanced at Daniel, who offered her a calm, encouraging smile. "It'll be all right," he whispered. Amelia tried to hold on to that hope. The celebration unfolded smoothly until the moment came for toasts. Mr. Johnson, tall and commanding even in his 60s, stood at the front with a glass of champagne in hand. The chatter died down as he spoke of legacy, perseverance, and family. Amelia straightened in her chair, waiting for his gaze to meet hers. But then his tone hardened. "Family," he said, his deep voice echoing across the ballroom, "is the greatest gift a man can leave behind. Yet some forget what it means to honor that family name." The words pierced Amelia, but she forced a polite smile. Then he looked directly at her. "My daughter," he said sharply, pointing straight at her. Heads turned. "She has chosen to disgrace this family. She married a man beneath our standing. Against my will." Amelia felt the air drain from her chest. Whispers spread swiftly around the tables. Daniel's grip tightened on her hand, but before she could react, her father's face darkened. "You dare bring him here, parading your shame during my moment, as if I would pretend nothing has happened," he thundered. "Daddy, please." Amelia rose to her feet, but Mr. Johnson was already marching toward her. In one swift movement, he seized her arm and yanked her up. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "You do not belong here," he hissed, dragging her toward the doors. "A daughter who dishonors her father has no place under this roof." The music stopped. Glasses stilled. Every eye in the room was fixed on them. Daniel rose slowly, his jaw set, his gaze locked on Mr. Johnson. He didn't shout or rush forward. He just stood tall, a quiet storm brewing inside him. The ballroom hung frozen in silence, all waiting to see what would unfold. And in that heavy stillness, Amelia felt the ground shift beneath her. This was no longer a private quarrel. This was war. Raised in privilege and controlled by her father's iron grip, Amelia had never truly been free. Life inside the Johnson estate meant living under strict rules. What she wore, who she could befriend, even which hobbies were acceptable for someone carrying the Johnson name. Her father believed reputation was everything, and every choice she made had to reflect that standard. He dictated who she could date, which schools she must attend, and the career path she was expected to follow. When Amelia once confessed her dream of becoming an artist, her father had laughed in her face. "You are a Johnson," he had said. "You will study business. You will run companies, not waste your life with paints and canvases." So Amelia obeyed, at least outwardly. She studied business, smiled through dinners, dressed as he demanded. But inside, she was always holding her breath. That changed the day she met Daniel. He was nothing like the polished, arrogant bankers and CEOs her father paraded before her. Daniel was a diligent lawyer from a middle-class home. Ambitious, yes, but not enslaved by wealth or appearances. He listened, truly listened, making Amelia feel as though her thoughts mattered. Their bond grew quickly. Late-night conversations became coffee dates. Coffee dates turned into drives along the coast. With him, Amelia felt free to be herself, messy, vulnerable, imperfect, and still loved. When her father learned about Daniel, his fury was volcanic. "A lawyer," he spat, as though the word itself were filth. "Middle class? Do you think I raised you to throw away our name for someone like that?" For the first time, Amelia defied him. She refused to leave Daniel. 6 months ago, they married quietly in a garden ceremony, surrounded only by close friends. Not a single Johnson relative attended. Her father refused to give her away, declaring she had lost the right to call herself his daughter. Since that day, he had not spoken a word to her. Her mother never defended her, never challenged her husband's rage. When Amelia called, her mother's voice was soft, weary. "Try to understand your father," she would say. "He only wants what's best." Then there was Marcus, Amelia's younger brother, the golden child. He could do no wrong. When he failed a class, their father brushed it off as a lesson. When Amelia stumbled, it was a disgrace. Marcus was showered with praise and gifts, always the priority. Amelia, meanwhile, was labeled too emotional, too dramatic, too defiant. Through it all, her love for Daniel remained unshaken. He was her refuge, the only person who never made her feel small. But her father's disapproval loomed over their marriage like a storm cloud. Every time a notification from the family group chat appeared on her phone, dread twisted in her chest. Often, she wasn't included in the conversations at all. And when she was, Marcus made sure to remind her she had betrayed the family. That was why tonight mattered so much. When the invitation for Mr. Johnson's retirement gala arrived, Amelia stared at it for a long while. Part of her wanted to rip it up. But another part, the little girl still aching for her father's approval, saw it as a sign. Maybe he was ready to forgive. "This could be our chance," she told Daniel as they dressed that evening. "If he's ready to talk, we'll listen," Daniel said gently. "But Amelia, we go as equals. You don't need to beg for his love." She had smiled, grateful for his steady strength, though fear gnawed at her. She wanted desperately for her father to see Daniel as she did. Honorable, kind, deserving of respect. As they entered the glittering ballroom, Amelia's heart pounded. She spotted her father at the front, greeting guests with a proud smile. For a fleeting moment, hope stirred in her chest. Maybe tonight would be different. She had no idea the night would end with her father dragging her from the hall, severing what fragile thread remained between them. Mr. Johnson's voice sliced through the ballroom like a blade. "This man," he said, pointing at Daniel, "was nothing but a mistake." Then, with his cold gaze fixed on Amelia, he added, "And you are a disgrace to this family." The words landed on Amelia like a physical blow. Her chest tightened as she felt every pair of eyes in the hall shift toward her. The music cut off. Conversations fell silent. "Daddy, please," she whispered, but he didn't allow her to continue. "You dare bring him here?" Mr. Johnson roared. "After all I've given you, this is how you repay me? By lowering yourself, marrying beneath your station, and parading him in front of my friends." Amelia's cheeks burned with shame. Around her, whispers rippled through the room, sharp, quick, and venomous like snakes hissing in the dark. Daniel remained motionless, his hands still holding hers, his jaw clenched but his mouth closed. "Stand up," Mr. Johnson barked. When Amelia didn't move, he stormed across the floor, seized her arm, and dragged her upright. Gasps echoed through the hall, glasses clinking against tables as startled guests turned to watch. "You will not sit at my table and dishonor me," he said through clenched teeth. "A daughter who defies her father has no place here." His grip tightened until it made her wince as he pulled her toward the door. "Daddy, stop," Amelia cried, struggling against his hold. Tears stung her eyes, but she fought them back. Daniel rose from his chair, not rushing forward, not shouting, not grabbing Mr. Johnson's arm. He simply stood tall. His dark eyes locked firmly on Amelia's father. His quiet strength said more than words ever could. The silence in the room grew so heavy that when a fork clattered to the floor, the sound echoed. For the first time, Mr. Johnson hesitated. His hand slackened slightly on Amelia's arm, though he did not release her. "Let her go," Daniel said. His voice was steady, low, but it carried clearly across the room. Mr. Johnson turned his head, meeting Daniel's unflinching stare. No one moved. The tension pressed down on everyone like a weight. Amelia's heart pounded in her ears. This was no longer about respect or family pride. It was about her marriage, her dignity, her future. Slowly, Mr. Johnson loosened his grip and let go, though his words still cut like knives. "You may stay," he spat bitterly, "but you are no daughter of mine." With that, he returned to his seat, raising his glass as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. The air buzzed with whispers. Some guests turned away in pity, others stared in shock. Marcus sat smirking, savoring every moment of his sister's humiliation. Amelia stood frozen, her arm throbbing where her father had gripped her. Daniel stepped forward and gently took her hand, guiding her back toward her chair. "Sit," he murmured softly, his voice calm but resolute. "Don't give him the satisfaction." Her body trembling, Amelia sank into her seat. Her father's booming voice carried across the room as he continued his speech, proud and commanding, as though nothing had transpired. But Amelia wasn't listening. All she felt was the suffocating silence around her. All she saw were the judging eyes upon her. This wasn't just a family quarrel anymore, it was public. It was unforgettable. And in that moment, Amelia realized her father wasn't merely angry, he wanted to break her. For the first time in her life, she wasn't sure she would let him. Inside her, shame battled against love. One part of her longed to run after her father, to beg forgiveness, to do anything to end this searing humiliation. But another part wanted to turn her back on him, to stand by Daniel, and prove she was no longer the frightened girl he could control. Her legs felt heavy, rooted to the ground. Daniel's hand was steady in hers, anchoring her. "Don't give him the satisfaction," he whispered again, his voice calm but edged with resolve. Amelia swallowed hard and nodded. Every eye in the ballroom still burned into her. Some held pity, others judgment. She caught the murmurs at nearby tables. Guests pretending to sip their drinks while gossiping. "This is what happens when children stop obeying their parents," a woman muttered. "I always thought she was too soft," a man replied. "Such a shame, after all her father did for her." At their table, Marcus sipped his wine slowly, smirk tugging at his lips, eyes gleaming with cruel delight. Across the room, Amelia's mother sat silent, her head lowered, avoiding her daughter's gaze. That silence cut deeper than her father's words. Daniel squeezed Amelia's hand again. "Breathe," he murmured. She tried, but her chest still felt too tight, as though she couldn't draw in enough air. Her father's voice thundered from the front of the hall, proud and commanding once more. "And so, as I step down from my position, I am proud to leave behind a company that bears my name, my values." Amelia barely heard him. Her ears rang, her eyes fixed on the tablecloth. Why did he despise Daniel so much? It couldn't be just about money. Daniel was hardworking, honorable, a good man. Anyone could see it, except her father, who had never even tried. She looked at Daniel. He sat tall and calm, but she felt the tension radiating from him. His jaw was tight, his knuckles white where his fists pressed into the table. He hadn't shouted, hadn't stormed out. He was holding it all in. Somehow, that restraint carried more power than an outburst ever could. "Are you okay?" she whispered. Daniel turned his head, his dark eyes softening. "I am. But this can't go on forever, Amelia." She understood instantly. This wasn't just about one dinner, one outburst. Her father's anger ran deeper, rooted in something more than pride. Her stomach twisted. Daniel leaned closer, speaking low. "I've kept silent out of respect for you," he said. "But I think it's time we stop letting him control everything." Her voice shook. "What do you mean?" Daniel hesitated, scanning the room to be sure no one overheard. "Your father and I crossed paths long before you and I met." Amelia frowned. "What?" Daniel met her eyes, steady and unblinking. "I know something about him, Amelia. Something he never wanted you to discover. I didn't think it was my place to tell you before. But after tonight," he shook his head, "he doesn't just hate me for who I am. He hates me for what I know." Amelia's breath caught. Her heart raced faster. "What do you know?" she whispered. Daniel didn't answer right away. His gaze drifted past her, to the head of the room, where Mr. Johnson stood, toasting to his own greatness. "Not here," Daniel finally murmured. But Amelia soon felt a shiver crawl down her spine. Her gaze drifted back to her father, watching him lift his glass, smiling effortlessly for the flashing cameras, the flawless image of influence and authority. His voice carried across the room, but Amelia barely absorbed the words anymore. The shame that had burned inside her moments ago was slowly hardening into something different. Determination. Daniel's steady presence at her side gave her strength. For years, she had lived in fear of defying her father. Tonight, for the very first time, she began to wonder what it would be like to stop being afraid. As servers cleared plates and set down dessert, the murmurs at the tables grew sharper. She should have gone with her father, someone whispered. Look at her, sitting there like nothing happened, another muttered. Amelia's hands shook beneath the table. She couldn't tell if it was fury or the strain of holding back tears. Daniel's fingers brushed against hers again. We'll get through this, he said softly. She gave a small nod, but deep inside, something was shifting. Tonight was meant to be about reconciliation. Instead, it had turned into a public battlefield, one she could no longer deny. Her father wasn't here to make peace. He wanted to crush her in front of everyone. But perhaps, tonight was the night she learned her own lesson. She didn't need her father's permission to live her life. Still, Daniel was right. The fight wasn't finished. Not until the truth surfaced. The truth Daniel had been holding back. And when it did, she knew the entire world would hear it. When Mr. Johnson lifted his glass for his final toast, the crowd hushed again. Cameras clicked. Even the servers paused to listen. To family, he declared proudly, his voice booming. To legacy, to honor. Enough. The word rang out from the second table. Calm, steady, but striking like thunder. Every eye turned. Daniel stood tall, composed, one hand lightly resting on the back of Amelia's chair. His expression was calm, but his eyes blazed with quiet fire. This has gone far enough, he said. A wave of shock rippled through the hall. No one had ever dared interrupt Mr. Johnson at his own celebration. Slowly, Mr. Johnson lowered his glass. Excuse me. Daniel didn't flinch. You've spent this entire evening humiliating your daughter. You tried to humiliate me. But I think it's time everyone here learns the truth about the man they're raising a glass to. Gasps broke out. Marcus sat upright, suddenly tense. Mr. Johnson's face darkened. You will sit down. Now. No, Daniel said simply. He slipped a small folder from his suit pocket. 6 years ago, Daniel began, his voice steady. This company you praise so highly was on the edge of a scandal. Millions of naira vanished from its accounts. Everyone assumed it was theft. The room froze. Even the waiters stood still. But it wasn't theft, Daniel continued. It was a cover-up. He opened the folder and lifted a document. These are the settlement papers. Signed by you. Mr. Johnson's jaw locked tight. You moved company money, Daniel said, calm but firm. Not for business. Not for charity. But to cover Marcus's gambling debts. All heads swung toward Marcus. His smirk had vanished. Daniel pressed on. I was the lawyer brought in to bury it quietly. To protect your family name. If I hadn't negotiated with your creditors and sealed the matter, your reputation would have collapsed. You might have gone to prison. Gasps echoed once more, followed by frantic whispers. Amelia's heart hammered. She looked at her father, who stood frozen, his face drained with rage. You knew about this? She asked, her voice trembling. Mr. Johnson said nothing. Daniel stepped further into the center of the hall. Back then I told no one. Because I thought shielding this family was the right thing to do. I believed I was helping you. His voice softened, but cut deeper. But you never forgave me, because I saw you at your weakest. And a man like you cannot stand being seen weak. Mr. Johnson's chest heaved. You dare. Yes, Daniel interrupted firmly. I dare. Because I will not watch you destroy Amelia just to preserve your pride. The room buzzed with hushed voices. Phones lifted, recording. Amelia's mother pressed a hand to her mouth, tears brimming in her eyes. You humiliate her, Daniel said, his voice rising. Because deep down, you know she is stronger than you. She chose love over fear, and that terrifies you. Mr. Johnson's face flushed crimson, his grip on the glass trembling. Amelia stood, her hands unsteady, but her voice clear. Is it true? She asked her father. For the first time, she saw something new in his eyes. Not fury, not control, but fear. His silence was her answer. The image of her father, flawless, untouchable, shattered in an instant. Gasps and murmurs filled the ballroom. Marcus stared at the table, pale and shaken. Daniel closed the folder and set it on a nearby table. I didn't come here tonight to fight you, he said quietly. But I will not let you keep hurting her. The room seemed to hold its breath. Amelia looked at Daniel, the man who had risked everything to defend her. Something within her clicked into place. Her father no longer held power over her. For the first time, she didn't see him as the towering figure who ruled her life, but as a man too prideful to admit his mistakes. The weight of shame melted away, replaced with a fierce strength. Amelia grasped Daniel's hand tightly. She was finished with silence. She rose beside him, trembling but unyielding. For the first time that night, she didn't feel small. She didn't search her father's face for approval. She looked only at Daniel. "I'm not leaving with you, Dad," Amelia said, her voice cutting through the silence. "I'm staying with my husband." The hall gasped again. For a moment the air froze. Mr. Johnson's face burned red, his jaw clamped with fury. "You will regret this," he hissed. "No." Amelia's reply is firm, her tone steadier than before. "I've spent my whole life regretting the moments I stayed silent. That ends tonight." Daniel steps closer, placing a gentle hand on her back. "You don't have to fight him alone anymore," he murmurs. Then the unexpected happens. Mrs. Johnson finally speaks. She rises slowly, hands trembling, and fixes her gaze on her daughter. "Go," she whispers. "Be free." The words are soft, yet Amelia hears every syllable. This time, her mother does not hold her back. She does not avert her eyes. For the first time, Amelia sees the faint glow of pride flicker in her mother's expression. Mr. Johnson's grip is slipping. His voice grows louder, harsher, but the room no longer bows to his authority. Some avert their eyes. Others shake their heads with quiet disapproval. Daniel stands calm, facing him. A father who shames his own daughter, he says evenly, has already lost everything that truly matters. The words hit like a final strike. Mr. Johnson stiffens, then hurls his glass down, storming out of the hall in silence. The room falls quiet in his wake. Amelia's knees weaken, but Daniel holds her steady. In that moment, she realizes something deep within. Her father no longer has power over her. The guests begin to murmur again, pretending the night can resume as before, but Amelia knows it never will. She feels lighter, as if years of weight have been lifted. Daniel leans closer. "Are you all right?" he asks. She nods, tears welling in her eyes. "Yes," she whispers. "For the first time, I am." Together, they walk out hand in hand. Whatever whispers follow behind no longer matter. Amelia has chosen her life, her love, her freedom. Outside, the night air greets her, cool, sharp, and new. She breathes deeply, as if for the very first time. "This isn't the end, you know," Daniel says softly. "No," Amelia replies with a small, unshakable smile. "It's the beginning." Their steps are steady as they leave behind the shattered shadow of the man who once tried to own her. Amelia and Daniel exit the ballroom hand in hand. The heavy music and the hushed voices fade. The crisp air brushes her face, and she feels like she can finally breathe. For the first time in years, she no longer feels chained to her father's name. They pause outside the tall doors. Amelia glances back once through the glass. The glittering ballroom now seems small, distant, like it belongs to another life. Relief swells in her chest. "He can't hurt me anymore," she murmurs, her voice breaking gently. Daniel brushes a loose strand of hair from her face. "No," he answers softly. "He can't. Tonight you took that power back." Amelia looks down at their joined hands. All her life, she worked to please her father. Perfect grades, polite smiles, silence in the face of cruelty. But tonight, she shattered that silence. Tears sting her eyes, but not from shame. They are tears of release. "Thank you," she says, her voice stronger. "Thank you for giving me back my voice." Daniel smiles, not with pride but with love. "You always had it," he tells her. "You just needed to remember." A light breeze sweeps through the courtyard, carrying away the tension that had haunted her all night. She knows her father must be raging inside, shouting at the staff, demanding the guests erase what they saw. But it doesn't matter anymore. His storm is not hers. They step down the marble stairs slowly. Each step feels like shedding another chain. "I was so afraid," Amelia admits quietly. Daniel squeezes her hand. "You were brave." This time she believes him. When they reach the car, she pauses. She doesn't want to flee in shame. She wants to stand tall in the night air and feel free. "Let's walk a little," she suggests. So they stroll down the quiet street, leaving the lights of the party behind. Her heels click softly against the pavement. For the first time, her father's voice is silent in her mind. No orders, no rules, no control. She finally feels like herself. You know, she says with a small laugh, he's probably rewriting his will right now. Daniel chuckles. Let him. You already have everything you need. They stop at a quiet corner, the moon their only witness. Amelia turns to him, her eyes glowing with a calm she hasn't felt since she was a child. I don't care about the house, the money, or the name. She breathes. I just want peace. Daniel rests his forehead against hers. Then that's what we'll build. Together. For a long moment, they simply stand there, letting the silence wrap around them. A final tear slides down Amelia's cheek, but this time she smiles as it falls. Inside the ballroom, her father may still rage, her brother may still sneer. But out here, beneath the night sky, she is free. And that is how it ends. Not with a scream, not with a fight, but with a woman walking away. Hand in hand with the man she loves. No longer afraid of the one who tried to control her. The night is cool, the world feels new. And Amelia is finally her own. Hi friends, thank you for staying until the end. If Amelia's journey touched you, please like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more powerful stories. See you next time.